The Galactic Empire appeared without warning, their fleets blotting out stars as they moved through human-claimed systems with mechanical precision. Millions of kilometers of engineered steel and energy pulsed in synchronized waves, reflecting centuries of conquest and an arrogance born from believing themselves invincible. The Empire's communications arrived as a single, crystal-clear transmission on every human frequency, leaving no room for negotiation. Submit, or be erased. Their tone carried the weight of inevitability, their logic flawless by alien standards, yet it carried a subtle arrogance. They did not see humans as worthy adversaries. Humanity was a scattered, chaotic species, messy and unpredictable, too primitive to matter in the vast calculations of the Empire. Human colonies trembled under the looming threat. On the core worlds, bustling cities and sprawling industries froze as citizens stared skyward. In the frontier territories, miners, engineers, and soldiers paused in disbelief. Entire populations experienced the same shock, the cold, impossible power of the Empire now aimed squarely at them. Reports streamed into human command centers, mapping the scope of the incoming fleet. Strategic models predicted near-certain annihilation. Every simulation concluded the same grim result: humans were expendable, inferior, and utterly predictable. Yet even in the face of overwhelming odds, there was no universal surrender. Humanity, in its stubborn defiance, was already bracing to respond. Command centers across human space lit up with urgent activity. Scientists calculated probabilities while military strategists argued over the Empire's weaknesses, small as they were. The Council of Interstellar Defense convened in emergency sessions, projecting holograms of the approaching armada, running through every scenario. Alien expectations assumed that logic alone would dictate human capitulation, but the humans themselves operated differently. They thought in ways the Empire could not anticipate, improvising, exploiting anomalies, and finding patterns where others saw chaos. While aliens focused on brute power and rigid hierarchy, humans leveraged unpredictability. Even their panic contained an element of resourcefulness. It was a trait that the Empire had never encountered: resilience laced with creativity. Scattered messages of defiance appeared across human networks. Pilots refused to flee. Colonists refused to surrender. Engineers repurposed outdated weapons, turning mining equipment into defensive tools. Intelligence units discovered subtle flaws in alien formations, odd patterns that the Empire's perfect calculations had overlooked. Each discovery reinforced the unspoken truth: humans were dangerous precisely because they were underestimated. Their capacity to improvise, to make bold, seemingly irrational choices, confounded alien logic. Every human leader understood it, yet still felt the gravity of what was approaching. The fleet's shadow stretched across space like a storm, massive and unstoppable, or so it seemed. The aliens, confident and detached, broadcast demands for submission, their messages dripping with contempt. They called humans primitive, chaotic, unworthy of their consideration. Their belief in inevitability became arrogance, and arrogance is a weakness. Human systems monitored every transmission, cataloging tone, frequency, and intent. Analysts identified patterns in the Empire's commands: predictable, repetitive, and rigid. Humans prepared to exploit this rigidity, knowing that adaptability and courage could turn the tide even against seemingly insurmountable odds. The sense of being cornered created unity. Those who would have bickered over territory or ideology now stood aligned by a singular, urgent purpose. Humanity's uniqueness, once dismissed, began to crystallize in the face of the Empire. By the time the first squadrons breached the edge of human-controlled space, tension had reached a peak. Colonies braced, fleets readied, civilians evacuated or conscripted into emergency defense efforts. Despite fear, humanity had not yet acted rashly. Every calculation, every precaution, and every observation pointed to one truth: the Empire's might was real, but the human response would be unlike anything the galaxy had expected. The opening moves of a conflict had been made, yet the decisive actions, the choices that would define humanity's place in the stars, were still ahead. The Empire assumed dominance. Humanity prepared defiance. Humanity's strength was never in numbers or firepower, it was in ingenuity, adaptability, and a willingness to embrace the impossible. While the Galactic Empire relied on centuries of standardized tactics, hierarchical command, and predictable calculations, humans thrived in improvisation. Scientists, engineers, and strategists worked tirelessly in hidden facilities, connected by encrypted networks spanning light years, developing solutions the Empire could not foresee. Among these efforts, one device remained the most closely guarded secret, a mechanism so devastating in potential that even the most audacious alien leaders could not have imagined it. It was simple in principle, yet revolutionary in effect, a single button capable of reshaping the balance of power across the galaxy. The decision to build it had been controversial. Debates within human councils raged for decades, weighing the ethics of wielding absolute power against the risk of annihilation if it fell into enemy hands. Some argued that any such device could corrupt humanity itself. Others insisted that the Empire's unchecked aggression required measures beyond conventional defense. Every calculation, every simulation, revealed a paradox. The button was both humanity's ultimate deterrent and its final gamble. Those entrusted with its creation labored in secrecy, refining every detail, testing contingencies, and preparing for the moment when survival demanded action. The Empire's arrogance made secrecy easier. They never imagined humans capable of such foresight. Small victories across human space highlighted the species' unpredictability. Pilots and outdated fighters executed maneuvers that would have been considered suicidal by alien standards, turning apparent weaknesses into tactical advantages. Engineers retrofitted civilian machinery into weapons of precise lethality. Colonies under threat developed ingenious defenses, using topography, energy patterns, and even psychological deception to counter the Empire's rigid strategies. Each act of ingenuity reinforced a lesson the Empire had yet to learn. Humans did not operate solely by logic, probability, or brute force. They adapted, they improvised, and they thrived under conditions designed to break them. The button's existence remained known to only a handful of leaders, yet its presence shaped every defensive strategy. Every human decision accounted for the possibility that, at the right moment, all conventional methods could be abandoned in favor of an unpredictable, galaxy-altering strike. Analysts studied the Empire's patterns, not simply to predict attacks, but to exploit rigidity, to create openings invisible to those who relied on uniformity. Humans perfected timing, alignment, and coordination, using deception, misdirection, and unconventional tactics as force multipliers. The Empire expected submission, yet every human maneuver was designed to challenge expectation, to create hesitation in a foe trained to expect compliance. Even the debate over whether to press the button reflected uniquely human traits. Discussions were heated, ethical, and profoundly personal. Some feared misuse could annihilate both enemy and ally, others insisted inaction guaranteed extinction. Arguments unfolded in command rooms and private quarters, blending strategy with philosophy, logic with intuition. Humanity's deliberation was slow but deliberate, reflecting the species' capacity for foresight and moral complexity. The Empire, by contrast, could not comprehend such internal debate. Their command structures operated on obedience and efficiency, assuming rational actors would behave predictably. They had not factored in a species capable of deliberate, morally infused improvisation. Across human colonies, civilians, soldiers, and scientists prepared, each playing a part in a web of interdependent strategy. Humans anticipated, adapted, and refined in real time, turning scattered fear into coordinated action. Every minor victory, every clever maneuver, demonstrated that the species' greatest weapon was not their fleet or technology alone, but the unpredictable, creative, and morally grounded approach to survival. The button remained the ultimate expression of that principle, an unpredictable, decisive option hidden behind layers of human judgment, ingenuity, and courage. It was the embodiment of the very quality the Empire had failed to recognize, the human refusal to bow to inevitability. As the alien fleets approached, the button waited, silent and potent. The Empire, confident in its superiority, assumed the humans' only recourse was conventional defense, yet the device represented the culmination of centuries of innovation, foresight, and improvisation. Humanity was prepared not just to resist, but to overturn assumptions, to defy expectations, and to redefine power on terms the galaxy had never seen. The moment of reckoning approached, and with it, a realization that survival depended on the species' greatest strength, the capacity to act where logic, fear, and probability faltered. The first volleys of the Empire's fleet arrived like a storm, massive energy pulses slicing through space, obliterating unprepared colonies and scattering debris across orbiting satellites. Humans were ready, yet not in the way the aliens anticipated. Instead of meeting fire with fire, they adapted instantly, turning each strike into an opportunity. Orbital defenses were improvised from mining rigs, asteroid belts were redirected to create hazards, and decoys mimicked the signatures of entire fleets. Where the Empire expected chaos and submission, they found precision in unpredictability, a paradox that their algorithms could not resolve. Every move the humans made was deliberate, a combination of instinct, creativity, and rapid iteration that left alien commanders confounded. Pilots maneuvered with an audacity impossible to simulate, dodging massive energy beams while using gravity wells, debris fields, and unconventional formations to their advantage. Engineers, operating in real time, hacked alien sensors, feeding false data into targeting systems, and turning enemy weaponry against itself. Civilians contributed in ways the Empire would have dismissed as trivial, rerouting power grids to create electromagnetic disturbances, activating planetary defenses that had been long considered obsolete, and improvising communication networks to coordinate defenses across light years. The galaxy's most advanced military faced resistance that was not predictable, not structured, and therefore, not conquerable through conventional means. Within human command centers, debates raged over when, if ever, the button should be used. Each moment brought new intelligence and unexpected victories, and each decision reflected uniquely human foresight. The Empire's approach was linear and hierarchical. Humans approached the conflict as a dynamic puzzle. While the aliens relied on rigid formations and overwhelming numbers, humans acted in overlapping waves of strategy, intuition, and improvisation. No pattern repeated long enough to be exploited. Every apparent weakness was a trap, every retreat a repositioning, every small victory a lesson learned and instantly applied. The humans were not reacting, they were composing the battle as it unfolded, creating a rhythm the aliens could not interpret. As alien forces struggled to adapt, confusion spread through their ranks. Confidence eroded into hesitation, hesitation into error. Weapons misfired, formations collided, and communication breakdowns multiplied. The Empire had never encountered a species whose advantage lay not in raw power, but in unpredictability, ingenuity, and resilience. Humans exploited every failure immediately, often using the Empire's own momentum against them. Every colony that survived an initial strike became a platform for retaliation, every successful improvisation a demonstration that humans could turn disadvantage into opportunity in ways no algorithm could predict. Meanwhile, the moral weight of pressing the button lingered over every council. Leaders considered the cost of activation, not just the destruction it might cause, but the precedent of wielding absolute power. Soldiers and civilians watched, aware that the ultimate decision rested with a few, and yet all felt the responsibility of contributing to the outcome. It was an expression of human complexity, decisive action tempered by ethical consideration. The Empire, conditioned to expect obedience and fear-driven compliance, could not compute such deliberation. To the aliens, hesitation was weakness. To humans, it was strength, a reflection of their ability to consider consequences while still acting with courage and precision. As the battle reached its apex, alien fleets faltered under a combination of human cunning, unpredictability, and tenacity. Every attempt to overwhelm a sector was met with a countermeasure that seemed improvisational yet was perfectly calculated. Space became a living, reactive battlefield, shaped as much by human intuition as by technology. The Empire, unprepared for such dynamic resistance, began to question its assumptions. It had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, to innovate, and to impose unexpected order on chaos. The first signs of panic emerged in alien command, a subtle tremor of disbelief that signaled the shift in power. Humanity had not yet pressed the ultimate device, yet victory was no longer an abstract concept, it was taking shape in real time. The Empire's superiority in numbers and firepower mattered less than the humans' mastery of unpredictability and strategic improvisation. Every maneuver, every success, every ethical deliberation built toward the inevitable choice, setting the stage for a decisive action that would render centuries of alien arrogance meaningless. The humans had seized control of the narrative, proving that resilience, creativity, and courage were as lethal as any weapon. The moment arrived with quiet precision. Across human command networks, a single signal triggered an operation years in the making. The button, the culmination of ingenuity, foresight, and careful deliberation, activated. Light and energy pulsed outward, controlled yet unstoppable, flowing across the vastness of space in patterns no alien sensor could comprehend. Systems that had once been instruments of destruction now faltered, confused by forces beyond their calculations. The Empire's fleets, so long symbols of dominance, shimmered as if caught in a ripple of unseen energy, their coordinated movements unraveling instantaneously. Alien commanders could not understand what had happened. Screens that once displayed precise tactical data now flickered with static and impossibility. Communication channels failed. Energy signatures vanished. Ships disappeared from sensors without a trace. The calculations that had guided millennia of conquest proved meaningless in the face of an outcome their logic could not predict. Panic erupted, not sudden and chaotic, but creeping and inexorable, a recognition that everything they had relied upon was now irrelevant. The Empire faced an enemy whose strength lay not in size or speed, but in the audacity of thought, the capacity to act unpredictably, and the courage to wield power responsibly. Humanity experienced the effects in disbelief and awe. Colonies watched as the looming threat dissolved, as the instruments of annihilation evaporated into nothingness. Soldiers, engineers, and civilians alike felt the immediate relief of survival, yet also the weight of responsibility. Humanity now held dominion over a galaxy that had once seemed indifferent or hostile. The victory was total, but it was not achieved through simple might. It was achieved through calculation, creativity, and a willingness to act decisively where others hesitated. The button was more than a weapon, it was a symbol of uniquely human ingenuity, the culmination of imagination applied to survival. The sudden absence of the alien fleets rippled through space. Outposts once poised for attack remained untouched, trade routes opened instantly, and communication lines lit up with astonished voices. The Empire's absence was not subtle, it was absolute. Entire systems once under threat found themselves free, untouched by the overwhelming force they had expected. The galaxy, which had assumed the inevitability of conquest, had been abruptly redefined by the unpredictable determination of a single species. The humans who had planned, built, and activated the mechanism did so with an understanding that power without purpose could be dangerous, yet here, precision and foresight had transformed potential annihilation into liberation. Aliens reacted with confusion, disbelief, and fragmented attempts at understanding. Intelligence reports failed to explain the disappearance of their fleets. Tactical doctrines, honed over centuries, were invalidated. Leaders attempted to issue orders, but no response came, systems had failed, and ships were gone. Their arrogance, so long a hallmark of conquest, became irrelevant. They had underestimated a species whose strength was not only in the ability to survive, but in the ability to conceptualize and execute solutions that defied expectation. Humanity had pressed a single button, yet in doing so, had demonstrated a scale of foresight and adaptability that no algorithm, no calculation, could match. As humans processed the victory, the realization grew that this was only the beginning. Control of the moment was absolute, yet it demanded responsibility. Every decision henceforth would carry weight, every action reverberating across the liberated systems. The Empire's disappearance was proof not only of human power, but of human restraint, creativity, and courage. The galaxy had witnessed a species capable of turning inevitability into opportunity, of transforming fear into decisive action, and of wielding unmatched power without losing sight of purpose. Humanity had survived, triumphed, and asserted itself, not through brute force, but through ingenuity and the audacity to act where others only assumed. The emptiness where fleets once dominated space was not a void of conquest, it was a testament to human will. The Empire had expected compliance, yet found impossibility. The button's activation became more than a tactical success. It was a declaration: humanity would not be predicted, controlled, or dismissed. The galaxy had learned a lesson, and humans, in that precise instant, had rewritten the rules of power forever. The galaxy woke to silence where devastation had been expected. Entire fleets that had once dominated human systems were gone, leaving behind empty voids and the faint echoes of what had been. Humanity stood unopposed, not because the Empire had been defeated in conventional combat, but because the unpredictable creativity of a single species had rendered their power meaningless. Across human worlds, celebrations were tempered by reflection. Survival had been assured, yet with survival came responsibility, an understanding that humanity's position in the galaxy had changed irreversibly, and that the consequences of wielding such unparalleled power would be felt for generations. Diplomatic channels, once burdened with the tension of inevitable war, now carried cautious inquiries from distant civilizations. Fear replaced hostility, curiosity replaced contempt. Alien races that had assumed humans would collapse under pressure now recalculated every interaction, every treaty, every potential alliance. Some sought protection, others recognition, but all acknowledged a new reality: humanity could no longer be ignored. It was not technology alone that commanded this attention, but the demonstration of thought, courage, and ingenuity that no algorithm or military doctrine could predict. The galaxy had glimpsed what it meant to face a species whose strength lay in imagination as much as in action. Humans themselves wrestled with the implications. Scholars debated ethics, philosophers pondered the moral weight of absolute power, and leaders considered the long-term responsibilities of dominion. The button, a symbol of ultimate leverage, had proven that ingenuity combined with courage could overturn centuries of hierarchy and conquest. Yet humans were acutely aware that such power was not infallible. The galaxy had been changed, but the lessons of restraint, foresight, and ethical deliberation were now inseparable from humanity's legacy. Those who had witnessed the event understood that dominance without responsibility could corrupt, and that the qualities which had saved them, adaptability, moral judgment, audacity, must continue to guide their actions. In the immediate aftermath, humanity reorganized its networks, fleets, and colonies, establishing secure lines of communication and control across liberated space. Every decision reflected the species' unique approach, cautious yet confident, innovative yet methodical. Abandoned alien infrastructure became a source of study and adaptation. Energy systems, navigation technologies, and even environmental controls were reverse-engineered, not merely to replicate, but to expand human capability. Where others would see raw power, humans saw opportunity, applying intellect and creativity to ensure sustainable growth and defense. HFY was no longer abstract. It manifested in every calculated choice and every careful expansion. Across former imperial territories, human presence became both protective and transformative. Colonies were re-established, previously enslaved or subjugated populations liberated, and trade routes reopened under cooperative supervision. Humanity's influence grew not through oppression, but through demonstration of competence, resilience, and reliability. Alien observers noted patterns of human expansion, cautious, strategic, and guided by principles that balanced survival with morality. The unpredictability that had confounded the Empire now served as a deterrent and a promise. Humanity had proven that while they could act decisively, they also understood the responsibilities of power, a combination no other civilization had achieved. The psychological impact of victory was profound. Humans recognized their own capacity for strategic creativity, moral reasoning, and ethical courage. It was not the destruction of their enemies, but the calculated, decisive assertion of their ingenuity that defined them. Across colonies, in military academies, research centers, and civilian councils, this lesson was internalized: power alone is meaningless without intellect, adaptability, and ethical awareness. Humanity had not only survived the galaxy's greatest threat, but it had rewritten the rules, establishing a precedent that would endure across generations. In quiet reflection, leaders acknowledged a fundamental truth: humans were no longer mere participants in the galactic stage, they were arbiters of possibility. Their choices had reshaped entire systems, challenged assumptions of inevitability, and elevated a species once underestimated to the highest tier of influence. The galaxy had learned to fear human unpredictability, respect human ingenuity, and admire human courage. In that recognition lay the essence of HFY, a species that triumphs not merely through power, but through vision, adaptability, and an indomitable will to act where others only assume. Humanity had survived, prevailed, and claimed its place in the cosmos, not because they were strongest, but because they were irrepressibly, undeniably human.